Hi, if you want to know how to make a swayback adjustment, this video is for you. Please stay tuned. Hi lovely people, welcome to my channel. Josie here, and this is Josie. I'm glad to have you back again for my old subscribers. And for my new subscribers, you're more than welcome. Feel at home. And also, if you don't subscribe to this channel, I document sewing related content, a few DIYs and craft videos here and there. And if that's something you'd be interested in, you could join the family by subscribing and also press the bell icon so YouTube notifies you whenever I upload a new video. With no further ado, I promised you last week when I showed you my weekly sew and tell video, episode 3, where I showed you episode 2, sorry, where I showed you the 2 dresses I had made. That was the by hand London Hannah and the Ariana dress by Style Arc. I'll attach the video in the cards up here and also in the description box below if you want to hear about it. In that video, I talked about swayback adjustments I had to make to both bodices of those dresses, and I asked if people are interested to hear how I go about making the swayback adjustment and what a swayback adjustment is. And I thought this would be that video where I show you what it is and how I go about making alterations for it. And if that's something you're interested in, let's continue. What's a swayback adjustment? I won't go into the medical terms of how the spine curves in, all that, but at least I'll tell you what I understand in relation to my body and why it's important to make the alterations. I'll go ahead and show you my assistant, Letitia. Letitia over here is my custom made dress form by Bootstrap Pattern. She's made to my body measurements. Bootstrap Pattern gives you an opportunity to enter all your body details and a few features on your body, and one of the features I recorded was a swayback adjustment, and so it produces a pattern for you in about 20 minutes, and this is what you go ahead to use to sew up this dress form. It was quite a time consuming project, but I'm glad I went with it because it helps me fit in my clothes. If you want to know what a swayback adjustment is, when your back dips in at the waistline, this is the waistline, when your back dips in at the waistline, then because you've got a little extension here, a bit of a bump, so it dips in, and in so doing it shortens the amount the fabric needs to cover on the back. If that, I don't know whether that makes sense, but I will also show you on this jumpsuit. I'm wearing the D&Do Sirocco jumpsuit, which I made recently, but I also made a swayback adjustment to this. If you can tell, my back dips in around here. If you can tell, I don't have, these are just pleats, not darts, but if you can tell, my back dips in, then outward, and in so doing it shortens the amount the fabric needs to cover at the waistline. And if you can tell, our waistline is marked by this stitching line, the red marking, and this is what it looks like. The dips in, if you can tell, it's quite clear right there. If I stand behind it, I actually create a shadow for you to tell. So this is a sway back adjustment. It dips in at the waistline. In other words, not straight down, because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have to take out some fabric. And if you don't do the sway back adjustment, you end up making clothes and you find a bit of a bulge at the bottom here, extra fabric which wasn't accommodated for, and yet you've got a waistline to cater for. Let me show you on a piece of clothing. This was my twirl of the Ariana dress by Style Arc Pattern. I tend to twirl up a bodice for every new dress I'm constructing for the very first time. I just feel like most of my fitting has to be done at the bodice as opposed to the skirt. That is easier to alter. And if you can tell, like I showed you, this mark, this line or the stitching here, the red stitching which goes all around, marks the waistline with my body measurements. And in so doing, most times I find that the front bodice comes close to the waistline. However, I find that the back one dips in a bit more. If you can tell from here, I don't know if it's clear, we have the marking over here, but there's this amount of fabric that has gone past it. I know you could say that this is a strap that I could have shortened. Yes, I could have shortened it, but still, if I pull it up a little bit, you still realize that it goes way past it by a big portion. I don't know if that makes sense. If I don't make any alterations to it, I realize that the waist of the dress at the back would dip in much further than it does at the front, if you can tell. So with the swayback adjustment, it helps you take in that extra amount so that the waistline of the dress actually comes to your normal waistline, if that's clear. I'll show you in another And this was the toile of my by hand London Hannah dress I made, and with this I just used an old duvet cover to just check fit, and I was happy with where the darts came at in regards to my bust. But then when I came to the back, if you can tell, if it was your ordinary straight back, it would have pulled this fabric backwards, so we wouldn't have had it falling past the waistline. So in other words, the sway back adjustments makes your back a bit shorter. So if you can tell from here, if we are going to look at our waist measurements, at the front is not pretty far off because we have to accommodate for the seam allowance that will attach the skirt option. But if you look at the back, where this comes to is quite further off here. So this is the best time to try on your toile when you've made it and get someone to help you mark the point where your waistline lands. And I could tell like the front wasn't that bad off because all it accommodated for was just the seam allowance. If you can tell here at the side seams, it's just the seam allowance accommodated for, but we have some extra bulk in the back which is close to an inch, if you can tell. So in doing the sway back adjustment, we take off that extra 1 inch, not forgetting that we have to leave the seam allowance to the body. So once we shorten it up, then we shall have a dress that actually lands at the natural waistline where we want it to land. I'll go ahead and show you how I would adjust a pattern piece to accommodate for a sway back adjustment. Let me take you to the table. Over here, we're going to make our sway back adjustment on the by hand London Hannah dress bodice back. And this is the back piece. We have our darts marked out, and also we have this on the fold, it's cut on the fold. And what we need to do, we look at our pattern piece, our muslin that we made, and we see the adjustments we needed to make. And this is the muslin I made that we tried on onto the dress form, and we went ahead and marked off a point at which I wanted to deduct. And I think the major point was this. The main point was this. I marked it off vaguely. I was at the top on and I just stretched my hands and vaguely marked off that point. But while at it, we also want to accommodate for the seam allowance, make sure we don't cut it off. So while we want it to come at our natural waistline, we also want to cater for the seam allowance. So from this, I realized we needed to take off just 3/4 of an inch. And that's what we're going to go ahead and transfer to the back bodice piece. And we are going to transfer it at the center back point where we lay the fabric on the fold, and we shall go ahead and mark off our 3/4 of an inch. So over there. And that shows that this is the amount we need to take out at the back place. If we don't, it will fold up if it's a tight fitting dress. And we need to blend this, cut off some point, blending it to the side seam. And also one important thing to note, this is often cut. The back bodice for the fold is at a 90-degree angle. And the beauty is such rollers, they help us see all those straight angles. So we make sure we mark off that 90-degree angle. In other words, I'm marking the fold line, the center line, against one of the markings on the roller, and just try to blend it down. We're going to draw a line from the center back to the side seam, and before we do that, we want to accommodate for our dart. If you can tell, hope it's clear to all of us, this is our dart over here. And before we can make any alterations, we want to act like it's sewn in other words, we want to pour the dart onto each other, onto itself. We could vaguely do it. We try to get the lines matching up. Unfortunately, this dart is quite small, but I'll manually manipulate it. And you want to match up the dart together. Now I'm assuming that I've sewed it all up together, and I'll go ahead and mark it up with some masking tape. We know that fabric is more flexible than paper, that's why it will fold up there, but that shouldn't be a big deal. I'm just using masking tape that can easily be removed. So we are going to blend in this side to the other. I'll go ahead and use my curved roller to do this. And you want to make sure that this sits onto you blend it from the right angle. You don't want to just draw a straight line because it will be pointed. You try to see at what point it can blend in well. It will look like it's slanted, but that's what will give us the shaping we are after. Let's see if I can do it this way. You have to manipulate it until it gives a nice one you're happy with. And yeah, I'm happy with this. And after that, I seem to have come up with one I'm happy with. Could mark it up with a Sharpie so it's visible to all of us to work with. And you try to blend it in, not at a big point at this side seam. We shall go ahead and cut it off. And I always use this rotary cutter for cutting my patterns, an old one. So you could go ahead and cut off your piece if you're happy with the curve or the line you come up with. And this is our alteration, and when we remove the masking tape, I love to use masking tape because it doesn't ruin anything. It's like paper tape. And in so doing, you can transfer your dirt. Now, I didn't need to cut off much, so I didn't need to add the little amount I removed from the dirt to that. I don't think it affected it much, but should you realize that you're cutting up a lot, you might want to shift your dirt also. But at this point, this is what I do to most of my swayback adjustment. It might seem like a very small piece you've cut off, but it helps a lot with fit and getting your top get at the right point. And that's it with my swayback adjustment. Hi, that's it with my swayback adjustment tutorial. Hope you've learned something. And one thing we take from this, you can ignore it, but you will realize that fabric comes past your natural waistline. And to accommodate for that extra bulk is you take out the measurement, you measure it, know how much you need to take out, and then you'll get your clothes coming to your natural waistline. Just like I did it for this dress, for this jumpsuit. And that's why you can tell, you know, if the light can allow that, actually the waistband now comes at the natural waistline. If I hadn't taken it out, it was coming further down, which is not flattering at all. So hope that's clear, and hope you understand that now when someone talks about a swayback or a swayback adjustment, it's to accommodate for that extra bulk in the back, which would actually make our clothes less flattering. I hope this tutorial has been clear and you've understood what a swayback adjustment is. Let me know if there's something that wasn't clear in the tutorial. I'm happy to go deep into it. And this is what I do for all bodices when I'm making a blouse or a dress and I need to make a swayback adjustment. However, I still sometimes find myself needing to make a swayback adjustments for trousers that are meant to come up at the natural waistline. But this video was predominantly for adjusting bodices, for dresses, and also for blouses. And thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, bye.